I mean, it feels like a physical game every game. Feels like it's been a physical season. But yes, I think, I feel like I've been on the ground a little bit more this series so far. But we just keep getting back on. So that's all you can really say.
The real debate now was Mitchell simply offering admiration, planting the seeds of professional rivalry, or doing something far greater. Her words landed as a calculated, brutally honest, and refreshingly real evaluation of a teammate, one that may have set a new standard for authenticity in professional sports. That's what fans are dissecting today. But before we break down the heart of her statement, it's worth stepping back to ask something bigger. Has Caitlin Clark not only transformed women's basketball, but reshaped how the world views the sport? Are we witnessing the most pivotal turning point in modern sports history? Is Caitlin Clark truly the needle? Share your thoughts in the comments.
Watch how the third quarter goes down. At least they called this one. Asia Wilson creams Lexi Hall like she did 5 times in game 1. Peggy Hammock get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. Asia Wilson doesn't like Lexi Hall. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexi Hall gets called for a foul.
Kelsey Mitchell has finally spoken, and this time there was no filter. After months of routine interviews and carefully polished press lines, the veteran leader of the Indiana Fever broke through the noise what message fans have been waiting to hear. While media voices spun their narratives, Mitchell delivered something different: honesty. Her words weren't casual commentary. They were deliberate, sharp, and carried a weight that shook the WNBA conversation. In just a few sentences, she shifted the spotlight and reframed how the league, the Fever, and Caitlin Clark are being discussed. Mitchell reminded everyone that leadership isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about conviction, clarity, and timing. And in that moment, she delivered all three.
They ain't song and dance to me, man. I'm just grateful, man. I love basketball. I love playing with my team.
That's the magnitude of the question. One Mitchell's comments have now forced squarely onto the table. It's also why her voice carries such weight. Here's the truth. Mention the Indiana Fever anywhere, and you already know what's coming next: the Clark question. It's as inevitable as the sunrise. Doesn't matter if the topic is defensive schemes, pre-game meals, or even the weather. Eventually, the conversation pivots. But what about Caitlin? That's become the unavoidable orbit of Indiana basketball. And this time, the one answering wasn't a bench player or rookie voice. It was a heartbeat of the team, Kelsey Mitchell.
Asia Wilson, look at that foul they called for her. Yeah, saved her. That's a bull crap. I love Aaliyah Boston. Great job today playing defense. Look at that. Another foul. Bailed out by the refs. I get pissed off. This is the worst one. They call this a jump ball. How is that a jump ball? Nobody even had possession. Aaliyah Boston, that's anything is over the back. Not a jump.
And that reality matters more than most people realize. Kelsey Mitchell isn't just another name on a roster. She is a franchise survivor. For years, she was a lone spark in the darkness, carrying Indiana through seasons so grim they were nearly unwatchable. This is the same Mitchell who shouldered a team that scraped together just 5 wins in a year. The same Mitchell who endured a carousel of coaches over 8 seasons while opponents treated matchups with the Fever as nothing more than a breather, a chance to pad stats and rest stars. She was the one left to absorb the defeats, face the microphones, and repeat polite cliches about building after another 20-plus point blowout. For Mitchell, basketball wasn't just competition. It was pushing a boulder uphill night after night.
And Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose Game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start.
Say it plainly. Caitlin Clark hasn't just changed the Fever. She's transformed the entire basketball ecosystem. So when Kelsey Mitchell finally spoke about Clark, it wasn't filler. It wasn't the usual, she's great, she helps the team, soundbite. Mitchell doesn't deal in rehearsed PR fluff. What she offered was raw, unfiltered, and sharpened by years of surviving in the league's basement. And in doing so, she validated what everyone can see, but few have dared to say. Her exact words hit like a tectonic shift. Clark has changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball itself. Let that sink in. That isn't just praise. It's a seismic admission from the one player who had every right to be bitter. The cornerstone of the Fever, the survivor of irrelevance and pain, looked straight into the camera and essentially declared, "Without Caitlin, none of this happens." The sellouts, the primetime games, the global coverage, all of it.
In the WNBA, you cannot blindside somebody and set a screen on them without enough time for letting the player being screened react. And then look at this. This one, their arms lock up. But you gotta let go at some point. Like, you can't bring the person closer to you and just stay locked in while the offensive player is trying to get the rebound. But we know A'ja Wilson only receives.
What makes this moment so powerful is the complete absence of jealousy. There was no bitterness in Kelsey Mitchell's tone, no passive-aggressive undertone, no trace of resentment, just pure, genuine respect. That's what makes her words so rare and so refreshing. And importantly, she didn't diminish herself in the process. This wasn't surrender. This was balance. Mitchell reminded the world, subtly but firmly, that before Caitlin Clark arrived, she was the one carrying the franchise. She was the one grinding through the worst years, keeping Fever alive long enough so that Clark would have a platform to shine when she entered the league. That's the undeniable truth. Mitchell is the reason Indiana didn't sink into total irrelevance during those bleak seasons. While the rest of the WNBA brushed the Fever aside, while opponents padded their stats and coaches rested their starters, it was Mitchell who kept the identity of the franchise intact. She wasn't just keeping the lights on. She was a generator making sure the entire building didn't shut down. And now, in 2025, her loyalty is paying dividends, not only in numbers, but in legacy. Mitchell didn't just acknowledge Clark's impact. She elevated it, while simultaneously reaffirming her own. That's the genius of her statement. It wasn't about sides. It wasn't about competition. It was about redefining what leadership looks like. True leaders don't fear rivals. They embrace them. That's why fans across the country are still buzzing about Mitchell's words. Not because they were flashy or staged, but because they were authentic. In a league often clouded by jealousy, petty rivalries, or thinly veiled digs from veterans like A'ja Wilson or Sheryl Swoopes, Mitchell flipped the script. She showed that respect and truth can coexist. And that's the authenticity the WNBA desperately needs.
Where is you going to find any flows when that was the case? Where are you trying to do to jumpstart things?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm. It's about timing. It's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us.
Kelsey Mitchell's reflections can't be fully appreciated without retracing the Fever's long, painful journey. When Lexi Hull first joined the roster, Indiana was still the league's punchline. Wins were scarce, losses were expected, and the franchise lingered on the margins of relevance. Through it all, Mitchell was the one smiling in press conferences, talking about building blocks while the team struggled to scrape together even 5 wins a season. She bore the weight, dressing up futility with optimism, knowing exactly how heavy it was. Then came Aaliyah Boston, a force in the post who finally offered a glimmer of hope. Her arrival was like planting a flag in barren ground, a foundation that could actually hold. And then came Caitlin Clark, a supernova whose presence bent not only basketball, but the entire sports media universe to her will. Overnight, the Fever shifted from afterthought to headline news. Mitchell never sulked, never complained, never demanded out. Instead, she adjusted, embraced the reinforcements, and recognized that this wasn't a threat, but the long-awaited change she'd been hoping for. That's why her endorsement of Clark carries so much weight. She's lived both versions of the franchise, and she knows which one sells tickets and shifts culture.
Yeah, Lexi, obviously you were late to the injury report today. How are you feeling this morning to get back and what do you have to do to be able to play? I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. Yeah, a lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready.
But Mitchell's words went beyond professional courtesy. They carried something deeper, something personal. She didn't just label Caitlin Clark a teammate. She called her a friend, and that one word matters more than most outsiders realize. In professional sports where egos and rivalries often erode locker rooms, friend is not a throwaway label. It signals that Clark's arrival hasn't disrupted chemistry. It has strengthened it. Mitchell made it clear. Clark didn't come in just to be the star. She came to create an environment where everyone could thrive in her orbit. That distinction is critical. We've seen super teams in other leagues crumble under the weight of ego and hype. Too many stars, not enough cohesion, and the whole thing implodes. Clark has avoided that trap entirely. She doesn't demand the sole spotlight. She acts like the sun, radiating light so others around her shine brighter. And Mitchell is proof of that effect. Since Clark's arrival, her profile has skyrocketed. She's playing the most efficient basketball of her career, delivering in playoff moments, and finally earning the recognition long overdue. Without Clark, Mitchell may have remained the WNBA's best-kept secret. With her, the nation is watching. And Mitchell doesn't just accept that dynamic, she embraces it.